2 years ago, people were moving just to move.
Right.
You know, they needed new carpeting. Tell you what, let's just sell the house and get a new one.
House and get a new one.
We're not doing that anymore.
Like, the brakes were out in the car. Let's just go buy a new car. Yeah. Screw the brakes.
See? Yeah, screw it. Yep, those, that's not this market.
Right. Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. We believe the best financial advice should always be conflict-free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, guiding you to financial freedom. Today is my co-host, Tom Townsend. Tom is a realtor with Townsend Realty Group and has been on our show many times.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me again.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here.
You're the Wiser Real Estate Guru. All things real estate, we call Tom.
Well, I appreciate that.
Tom's team. You have a big team now.
Well, I don't know. It depends on what your definition of big is, but
I think in real estate more than two.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're big. We're huge.
Well, we have a lot to talk about because, real estate's been crazy the last decade, I feel like.
Yeah.
We were just talking before we started here. I used to think, all right, if I'm going to move, because I am here in the city and I'm 2 miles from the office. It's an older home that we keep updating over and over again. In fact, I've lived in it so long, we've updated it twice.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think, if I'm going to move, I remember 7-8 years ago, $650 was my number. If I move, I'm going to spend $650,000 on a house. Mm-hmm. Now that number is like 1.8. Now my house has gone up in value, obviously,
sure,
over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
I think the dirt has for sure. But man, these are just crazy times. It seems like it started in the pandemic. But
well, that added fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
We were already on a climb out of the Great Recession. So we were already on our way out of that. And then the pandemic hit and all the money came and the Fed tried to slow things down and it had the opposite effect.
Yeah, we know we know all about that.
So yeah,
So what's happening today in the real estate market?
Sure.
Is inventory gotten better, worse?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, of course. But inventory is very low, and it has been for years.
Across all segments.
So, let's take a step back.
When I say segments, I'm talking about more like price points. You're probably thinking commercial and all that
stuff. I'm thinking more like location and different niches and such.
Yeah.
So price points kind of harder to really identify, but anytime we do these, I always preface the fact that you have to look at local real estate. So a lot of
local, yes.
Most news that people get is national, and there is no national real estate market. It is very, very, very local.
I just saw a stat. We have all these economic indicators, but I think like the average home price in the U.S. is like $354,000. Mm-hmm. I'm like, good luck finding a $354,000 house in Metro Atlanta right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point exactly. It's very local. So, we always talk about local markets. So, I'm talking about the Atlanta metro area. Yep. When we talk about our stats and what's going on here and predictions of 2024, I'm talking about the metro area. And then you can segment that out by price point and property type and so on and so forth. The interesting thing that I think that we have looking forward into 2024 is new construction.
Okay.
There's been a lot of new construction, and you don't have to drive around very much to see stuff popping up left and right. It will be interesting, and it's very hard to get data on where this new construction is. Are we starting to get oversaturated or not? Mm. I've read that some reports and economists believe that there may be an influx of new construction that's actually going to hit the market in 2024. And that will change things fairly significantly if that is truly where we're headed.
But that new construction, at least when I drive around and see it, every house looks the same. They're butted up against each other.
Yeah.
And they want $650,000.
Yeah, there's no...
They're basically starter homes.
Unless you go up further north and out of the city, you can start seeing some 350, 325s. But you've got to get...
You're talking city. You're not talking about Atlanta. You're talking about
Oh, you're talking to Daresville, Ranger.
City meaning Marietta, Georgia, not downtown Atlanta. You got to go far north of Marietta to get that.
You're way outside. I mean, you're going to have to go up north.
Even Rockmart. I don't know if you'd find that in Rockmart.
Yeah. We don't do a ton in Rockmart, but the little bit down there. Yeah,
there's not much there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's just not a segment. It's just not a geographical area. We do a lot in. But anyways, that new construction is going to be interesting to see. We're starting to see some of the new construction, the new builders provide incentives in order to get buyers. I mean, in the last 2 years, there were no incentives to bring a buyer into new construction. Right. I mean, they'd be more than happy to cooperate with you. And
I remember
so on
the financial
and so forth,
crisis. People were offering a car. You buy my house, I'll give you a car.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of a sudden, we're starting to see builders start to bring those incentives back. Incentives to the agents, like bonuses, and then incentives to the buyers.
That's very interesting. Are they providing the incentives to get people to obviously to sell? But why do they think they need to provide it if the inventory is low? Why aren't people moving?
That's what I'm saying. I think there's more. Some people call it ghost inventory. This ghost inventory that's hanging out there.
Okay.
And it's hard to find out exactly how much of that is actually coming on the market. There's no There's very hard to get the statistics for that. You can look at building permits, and we look at that.
So you're talking about ghost market, meaning a new home that's about to pop up.
A builder buys a plot of land.
Yes.
They subdivide it. And they start improving those. Those aren't that record of improvement of that during that construction period. It's all speculative.
It doesn't show up anywhere.
It doesn't show up anywhere.
Okay.
Doesn't show up until they get a certificate of occupancy.
So you think that because we've had low inventory for so long, the builders have been able to acquire the land to be able to start just building mass tract.
Yeah, I mean they acquired that land years ago.
Yeah,
right. It's not like they went out last month and bought the land and all of a sudden start. I mean that funnel, if you will, it goes way back. So a lot of the stats that we look at are looking backwards months.
Okay.
All right. That's the one challenging thing that we have in real estate when you look at inventory and statistics and such. We're always looking back pretty far.
Yeah. Those are rearward looking indicators, right?
Yes.
Not forward looking indicators.
Yeah.
But forward looking indicators, you could use permits, right?
Yes.
The number of permits being created.
Correct.
Yeah. I assume each house has its own permit, or maybe a subdivision is one permit. I'm not exactly sure how that.
You know what? That's a good question.
How that would
I don't know exactly how that pops up. I believe they get a permit for every improved lot that they're planning on building. But a lot of times they won't. They don't submit an application for a permit until they're ready to start construction. So they could have land sitting there,
right?
But until they're ready to start building and subdivide it and start building, that's when they'll.
So how much do you
put an application in?
How much do you think mortgage rates are affecting home purchases?
Oh, it's a lot.
Because we're below 8, but we're above 7.
Correct.
So we're sitting there 7 to 8% for a home buyer.
Yeah, rates is another issue or challenge that we've got to take a look at and affecting the market as a whole.
Yeah. I keep seeing these things on Facebook by realtors probably, but they are Instagram, and they say, well, buying a house for $800,000 at 7.5% interest is better than having to buy a house at $1 million at 3% interest.
Yeah.
And I actually am pretty good at math. So I did some of this math in their advertisements, and I was like, actually, no, it's not. Because that 5% difference is being amortized over like 30 years. It takes a huge price difference to make up, that carried interest for all that time period. Now, if you're doing like a 10-year, 15-year, it makes it easier because there's a whole lot less interest, right?
Sure.
Or even if you just made, some extra payments a year, extra payment a year, that would bring. So there's all these different things you could get back to where they're coming from, but you don't do it the way that these TikTok people say to do it.
Well, there's some truth in everything that's kind of stated, right? So there's a little bit of truth.
There's a little bit of truth there, but yeah, it was exaggerated in the cases that I saw.
Yeah. Well, I think here, and this is real, I think what the point of that may be, what the message that they're trying to get across is Currently, because the rates are so high, there's not a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So let's flash back 2 years ago. You've got a $400,000 house on the market. You've got 15 people bidding that thing up.
Right.
I mean, that's the market we were in. So you were ending up paying $60,000, probably 10, 12% higher than what even the appraisal would come back at. You were paying over. So what I think their conversation is right now, that's disappeared.
Yeah.
So if rates drop, we're going to go right back to that whole scenario. So I think that's probably what they're trying to get to. Like, hey, do you want to pay market value now?
Right.
Or if rates drop, do you want to be in this highly competitive market again and pay 15% higher than what the market value is?
At a lower interest rate. Either way, you pay about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the message they're trying
but yes, I can certainly see that.
There's a lot of different moving parts in that. But hey,
how do you think that we had the pandemic, and I'm not exactly sure why real estate jumped so much in the pandemic, other than people just moving, realizing what's important to them and moving out of the city.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of.
I understand second homes. I understand lake properties and beach property. I mean, I totally get that.
Yeah.
But just like Marietta, Georgia, or Decatur, Georgia, or Peachtree City, Georgia, we all saw these tremendous increases since the pandemic. And what do you think was, looking back, what do you think was causing that, and how has it changed forever? Yeah,
well, I looking forward, when you say change forever, are you talking about values or just the migration?
I think that there's a case could be made that real estate prices are here to stay. There's not going to be some big fallout that everyone talks about.
Yeah. We don't really see a big fallout. There's a couple scenarios, and I just mentioned one about the new construction and inventory. Yeah. If we get listen, we're way, way, way below inventory levels that what we should have.
Now, if you look at the stats on the people that are moving to Metro Atlanta,
yes,
I don't know that they could create enough inventory to.
Yeah, it's not. There's no quick fix.
Right.
There's no quick fix. So we're not
getting. Not only that, but you need apartments.
Yeah, you have. Well, that's the affordability.
There's a shortage of apartments too.
Yeah, there's a shortage of all housing.
Yeah.
Commercial is a different issue. So we're not going to talk commercial. We're talking residential, multifamily, residential. Yeah. Resale and new construction, but there is a shortage and there's no quick fix to that. So then you layer on top of the affordability issues. So the bottom line is we don't have enough inventory and there's no quick fix for it. We've got this new construction conversation that's happening, like how much new construction is actually out there, and if it's as big as some of the folks are talking about, and that ends up funneling into the market, then that we may have a different conversation. But that's one little side item. It would have to be a lot. It'd have to be a ton. And that was
in the right area.
That was my question to some of the folks that are actually talking about this ghost inventory.
Yeah.
As I'm like, well, how much is it? How much is out there? I know that builders are providing incentives and they're starting to do a couple different things to move inventory, but I don't know if that is a result of they have so much in the pipeline that's about ready to hit and they're getting nervous. Yeah. Or if that's just a result of affordability and the rates. I don't know. That's what I haven't answered that question for myself yet.
Yeah.
But overall, the inventory is low. So we don't see a big drop in values. We don't see a scenario unless there's a black swan event of some sort that we can't predict.
True.
But we don't see any kind of events that would all of a sudden increase the inventory and have values decrease drastically. Now we're settling down. We're not at this 15 to 20% value increase per year, right? We're not seeing that. That happened over the last few years, but we are definitely leveling out. I think we're up like 2%, 2.5%, depending on exactly where you're at.
The values,
year over year. So even with the increase in rates, we're still seeing an increase in values over the last, you look at, amortized over the last year.
Yeah.
Or not amortized, that's the wrong word, but the value over the last year, prorated over the last year.
One of the things I'm concerned about as a dad is that eventually my kids are going to graduate college and they're going to move to wherever they're going. I'm sure some of them will stay here in Metro Atlanta. Some may end up somewhere else, but buying the first house. I remember graduating from college, and we started looking at apartments. And I don't remember who it was exactly, but someone says, really want you to have to live in an apartment. Let's see if you can find a home that you can, and so we bought a townhome, fee simple townhome.
Okay.
Grandmother gifted me $2,000 toward my down payment, which was very little.
Mm-hmm.
I think the apartment was maybe $115,000, something like that.
Okay.
This was been in 2000.
Yep.
The payment was about the same as renting an apartment, maybe a little less actually.
Yeah.
And to do that for my kids now, I'm pretty sure it'd have to be about $50,000. And that doesn't, in 2000 does not inflate to 50 over that time period. It doesn't inflate to that. I mean, my first car cost me $400. I tried to inflate that, saying, okay, I'll give the same amount that my dad gave to me. It came out to like $1,600 or something. I was like, okay, that's not going to work. Or do something different for cars. But
what was it when you said $2,000 on a $150,000 property, right?
Yeah, $115,000. I think we only had to put down maybe 5% or something.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. What was the total percentage?
It was probably
those are
5%.
Still there. Those loans are still there.
So for the first time home buyer, you could pick up a home with 5% down right now.
You could. Yeah. FHA is actually 3.2 or 3.5. I'd have to look at it. But you can get into a house for as little as 3.5. Now you've got to qualify for it.
Yeah. You have good credit. Obviously.
You've got to have good credit. Yep, absolutely. You've got to have a stable job and, all of those other factors that.
So it's not like subprime days.
No, subprime days are gone. They will never return.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't, which is a great thing for everyone. So it's nice and healthy.
So who are these first-time home buyers? Give me a profile.
Their kids.
Are they under 30?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 30. Actually, a lot of the first-time home buyers are in their 30s. They could be 30 to 35. High 20s coming out of college, maybe working for a couple years.
Yeah.
So that's that segment.
Okay.
Anywhere from
anybody 25, 27 buying
26, not a lot, not a ton.
Okay.
But they're there. Not as many, but 28 to 35 years old.
Family assistance in those purchases?
A lot of them are getting family assistance, which has always been there.
Yeah.
That's always been there.
Yeah. No. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're there. And, but they're, the challenge is just the affordability of it. Yeah. So we always look at the affordability index.
What's a good starter home? Not a problem home. or a fixer upper. Maybe that's a better term, but what is it? 400?
Oh, at least. Yeah. Now we're talking once again, Metro
Atlanta.
Area,
yes.
Metro area,
close
Marietta,
to the job. Close to the job.
Yes. You're talking about like northern,
so 550,
southern.
600 is probably more
realistic.
You are.
Yeah, you are. You're
for a starter home.
Yep. You sure are. For a good home, like you said, a good home, not something that you're going to have to spend every minute of your extra time working on and fixing up. And
when I drive to Cartersville, and they used to be mostly little farms, and it's all being turned into subdivisions.
Yep,
everywhere.
Yeah. That's that ghost inventory. We're all worried.
Right.
How many houses you guys got in here?
But that's a commute, and we don't have the interstate system for that. So that's a whole nother that's a whole other issue.
Traffic.
Not that the government should ever subsidize homes, but my point is that there's a problem. People have to live further away from their jobs. I know you don't do much in downtown Atlanta, but I assume people are still leaving downtown.
I don't do a lot inside the perimeter, me personally.
Yeah.
I don't know what the growth rate is.
It's just when I search just like on Zillow, I feel I wouldn't say just inside the perimeter. I'd say the heart of Atlanta. There seem to be some good air quotes here, value down that side. No, not Buckhead, not Vinings, not your normal hot spots, but well, I take that as a sign that maybe people don't want to be there.
Yeah, once again, I've been so removed. Years ago, I did a lot of work inside of Atlanta, and the market then, and I'm sure it hasn't changed.
Yeah,
I am sure it hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot. I just don't know where these lines are anymore. But it would change street to street.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a drastic change. Like you would have a massive renovation, regenerification, if you will,
of a street
effort going on in like 2 or 3 street block. And
so
those values
it takes
high.
1 or 2 people to start changing the street.
It takes investors going in and they'll buy like 4 or 5 houses and they'll flip all of them. And all of a sudden they create a little market and then that grows and grows. And then, I tell you, you go one street over and it's like, whoo.
You know, I noticed that, so my daughter and her horse riding, we go to Aiken, South Carolina quite a bit. And there's like a row of homes that are so beautiful. And then the street over, it just looks like a bomb went off.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have this one lot that's still saved in my Zillow. It's $9,500 for this little tiny lot in downtown Aiken. You can walk to downtown, but if it's like 2 streets over from the desirable houses.
Yeah.
And the other one looks like it's terrible. Yeah. But no, it's not moving. So we need a bunch of people to acquire on this one street.
Well, it's funny because years ago, and I don't know if it's still like this or not, but East Lake Golf Course.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, you got this beautiful golf course right there. And then, but you go 1 block over and you're like, wow. Well,
yeah. East Lake has done a lot to try to revive that.
I'm sure they have.
So it's very different
that
now.
Was years and years ago.
It's very different now. Still some of that, but
back when I was working that whole area, it was like, wow.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
So that, I guess going back to the first time home buyer, I just, you think about, we talk a lot about legacy and financial success and that's something that we have to think about is, and then there's a couple of mentalities. Some people I think go, hey, I had to do this when I was growing up and a young person, and they'll have to do that too. Where other families have more of a sense of, I did that. And I've gotten to this point, this status in life. And so I don't want my kids to have to do that. They're going to give them a head start and get them that down payment for that home to get them moving. Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't know. I just feel like that it's almost like it's needed at this point for people who need to be in Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, once again, families have always helped their kids get started.
Yeah.
So that's never gone away. We still see that an awful lot with first-time home buyers. So
it just takes so much more money now.
It is a lot more. It is. Yeah, that's crazy. So and incomes are increasing, but they always have lagged behind inflation.
Yeah.
They've always lagged. So it's going to take a little bit of time for those incomes to kind of catch up and narrow that affordability gap again, because the affordability gap's pretty wide right now.
Right.
It's gotten really out of whack, I think, and it needs to narrow down, and that's going to take either prices coming down, which we are not predicting, so incomes have got to increase.
So nationally, again, I think the national data you can look at, but it's hard to find exact trends because real estate, like you said earlier, is local. But nationally, the gap between renting versus owning is the largest it's ever been, meaning the cost.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's cost, the mortgages can have to be so high if the rent is cheaper. Right. But then I look at some of these apartments and we have people living in 1-bedroom apartments paying $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
Which is to me insane.
It is.
My mortgage is not even $2,200 a month.
I know. I just went through this with my daughter.
Right.
And I kept on looking at her going, we need to find you a home. And we did. Right. We looked and looked and looked for her, but we couldn't find anything that she could afford.
Yeah.
Because her income has not caught up yet.
Right.
And it is what it is. Right. Yeah. But she wanted to be out of the house. And so she's renting a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, and it kills me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in this industry and I'm just like, right. Wow, this is just brutal.
So shifting gears again, you think about rental properties. So many people who don't look at any of this data will sit down in front of us and say, yeah, I'm thinking about taking $200,000. I'm going to buy some rental properties. Mm-hmm. Does that even exist anymore?
Yeah.
Because here's how I think about it. You have $200,000, you're going to put it into real estate. Well, good luck trying to get multiple properties. That'd be a down payment. You're going to take on a mortgage, which is not horrible. But if you buy a property, let's say for $350,000 and you're going to rent it out, yes, you can get a little higher rent, but the yield is going to be so much lower than historically what you had. Well, you should be yielding probably what? 8, 9, 10% a year.
Sure. I mean, that's a cap rate. Yeah. We always look at capitalization rates when it talks to internal rate of return.
Are those deals still out there?
They're out there. They're hard to find. And investors today really have to crunch their numbers. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, with low interest rates, you could borrow money for basically nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but you've got to be a really savvy and a really good deal in order, I think, to make a wise investment in today's market. So we have 3 rivers of revenue on an investment property. You have the appreciation, year-over-year appreciation on an investment property,
right?
Which is speculative.
Which realistically, you should budget 3 to 4%.
Correct. Yeah, we always budget 4%.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, anybody that bought 3 or 4 years ago is loving it.
Yeah,
because we saw a major increase. So investors over the last 3 or 4 years,
that's not going to continue.
No,
it can't.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
So on average, the line of the baseline is 4%. That's what we see year over year, and then you have the cash flow. Mm-hmm. A lot of investments have not been cash flowing over the last couple of years. And investors will sacrifice some cash flow. In other words, every month they feed the alligator. That's a term that,
wow. Yeah.
Because the appreciation was so high. And then you have the tax advantages.
Yeah.
Which, is obscure, and it depends on what your
situation that's a good point. I'll sidestep that for a second. So many people think that, I need to buy a rental property so I can lower my taxes. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I know.
You don't buy a rental property and then your W-2 income gets taxed less.
No.
Not how that works. So how it actually works is you buy a property, you have income from that property, you get to deduct 100% of the interest on the mortgage versus the income, right? Because it's its own silo.
Yep.
You have the depreciation of the property, which is over 29 years. Mm-hmm. And so the chances are you're not making any money on paper owning that home. Now, let's say you don't have a mortgage anymore. You're still depreciating the property. So most likely you still don't have any income on the portfolio, but you received cash.
Yes.
So you're getting some cash flow coming in, but not having to pay income on the cash flow. Plus you're deducting all your maintenance items, your taxes, all 100%, not on your W-2 income from your job.
Correct.
You're deducting it off the income that property generates. Here's the good part. Is that property, hopefully over 10 plus years, appreciates in value. It goes up in value. Now, let's say you paid $350 for it. It's now worth $550. You don't have a mortgage on it anymore because someone else paid the mortgage through renting it, right? Mm-hmm. Then you want to sell it. So then you would pay capital gains rates instead of having to pay income tax. So hopefully for you, that's going to be no more than 20%. It could be 50 or 10%.
Yeah.
But it could hopefully no more than 20%. Then once you sell or you can do what they call a 1031 exchange, and you can sell that property and buy another investment property and carry the taxes or the capital gains into that next property. So there's no tax owed.
Correct. Yep.
It just has to be improved property to improved property. You can't buy land and then 1031 exchange it into a rental home.
It's got to be like kind.
It's got to be like
their
kind.
definition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could also do stock sale of if you're selling your company, you could do a 1031 exchange into real estate from selling your company. So there's lots of different angles and tax advantages, but please don't think that you're going to buy a rental home and you're going to lower your tax bill.
Correct. And here's the other thing that I talk to people about is if you're just going to buy one rental property and that's your strategy is just buy one rental property and try and manage it and do all these things,
right.
You're kidding yourself. You really do need to have a portfolio of 5 to really get to a point where you're taking advantages of all the benefits associated with real estate. If your plan is just doing 1, 2, it's a lot of work and probably not worth your time to do just 1 or 2.
Yeah. Right.
It's just a lot. I mean, it's a business in itself. It's
Correct.
not something you just buy.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, you just outlined, there's a lot of complexity associated with owning and managing investment property outside of fixing toilets.
And we meet so many people that don't even place them into LLCs. And so you're just opening yourself up for all kinds of liability by not having the asset protection. But that's a whole different legal aspect of owning real estate. Another thing you can look at too is vacation property. I think people don't gravitate to that first for some reason, but buy a beach home, buy a mountain home, and then put it in an Airbnb or VRBO. Yeah. One of the best things about that is even with a lower occupancy rate, because a long-term rental is 100% occupied. Yep. You get to charge more per night.
Correct.
And if the market shifts, I mean, obviously it could shift downward, but usually it's a shift upward, you can increase your rent the next week.
That's right.
Or if you want more revenue, you can lower your rent, lower your nightly rate in order to take on more people.
Yeah.
So it's
just it's a math equation.
Yes, and you get all the benefits of owning an investment property.
Yeah.
You can use it yourself.
Yeah. It's a math problem. And the shorter commitment time you get from a rentor being 1 day compared to 1 year,
right?
That the rate per day is going to go way up because their commitment's only 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. Now your vacancy is going to increase as well. So an Airbnb or a rental, I mean, depending on where you're at, let's say the beach.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go down to Destin or Gulf Shores or somewhere down in that area. Your occupancy rate's probably about 60%. So 40% of the time it's vacant.
Yeah.
But you're getting a much, much higher rate. So it's just a math problem.
Right.
That's it.
And typically those properties will not get beat up as bad during recession times.
Depending on where you're located.
Yeah.
If you're not in a beach town,
right.
Or I'm sorry, a party town.
Party town. Yeah, that's true.
And the price point too.
Yeah.
So the higher end luxury condos don't get beat up as much as the less, once again, you need to know what kind of business you're getting into.
What kind of market it is.
And what kind of market. We do the same thing with bringing it back to our area a little bit up in the mountains. You can find log cabins and so on and so forth. You get below a certain value or price point, it's a party cabin. Yeah. And you've got to take that in consideration. You're going to get a lot of people coming in and using it as a getaway party.
Yep.
You get to a certain price point and luxury, you get families relaxing.
Yes.
Destination, maybe a couple couples, and they're awesome.
Yep.
So, you've got to know what you're getting into.
Very true. I've always said that a Highlands, North Carolina rental is very different than an LJ rental.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Two very different people.
Yeah.
And of course the LJ price or the Blue Ridge price point changes that. You can get the same people that you get in Highlands, but at a different price.
Yeah.
A different price point. But yeah, we have, honestly, even down in like Hilton Head, we've had clients with places in Hilton Head and they have some horror stories.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think that for Hilton Head.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so.
Even adults misbehave. It's not just young, it's not just people in their 20s. And Panama City. Those are all the worst stories.
Yeah.
It's Panama City.
Yeah.
Beautiful beach, but if you're on the low end of the rental market, Yeah, that's a tough.
It is
a tough place to be.
Yeah,
you don't want to be across the street.
Yeah,
you want to be on the water, not across the street. So what are you seeing as far as mortgage rates? And I know that you're not selling mortgages, but you're kind of on the forefront of that. There's right now a 70% chance that the Fed lowers interest rates in March of next year. Now, if people believe that also means they also believe that there's a recession, some type of recession coming, which they've been claiming for 3 years now, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I will say that anytime economists all agree on what's about to happen, there's about a 99.999% chance it doesn't happen that way.
So you're saying
I'm just saying I wouldn't count on a drop in the Fed rate in March of next year.
Okay. All right.
In 21, we had a great year in the stock market. In 2022, that year was like a chip shot, guaranteed 10% at least.
Yeah.
We're down 18% that year. Everyone agreed that, right?
It was going to.
You just can't pay attention to the short-term stuff. But if I was a home buyer, are you holding out hope that okay, we're going to return to the 3% mortgages in 2024?
I haven't heard anybody predicting that we're going to be back below 4. Nobody. As a matter of fact, I don't have a lot of people predicting we're going to be below 5 anytime soon in my lifetime. And I'm older, so I don't have as long.
Not that old.
No, I'm not. But that's what I'm hearing. Once again, this is all speculative. Who knows what's really going to happen? I'm just going off of everybody that talks to me, and economists and our mortgage partners are talking to us constantly about what they're predicting.
I mean, if they're trying to slow inflation, there's no way they they don't control mortgage rates, but the Fed doesn't. But they control it indirectly through other things. So there's no way that they're going to drop rates to the point where the mortgage market or the housing market just explodes again.
Yeah, in a
good way.
We haven't heard anybody make those predictions. At best, we see like it's going to stabilize.
Yeah.
Right around 7.2, 7.5
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's going to be that way for a little bit.
So if you're sitting here and you see the house of your dreams and you're waiting for the mortgage rates to fall,
I don't think that's a good strategy. Yeah. I really don't. So the caveat is, this is what we say. We always say, marry the house and date the rate. Sounds cute, doesn't it?
That's nice.
But from a realtor standpoint, that's what we tell potential buyers. Just buy the house of your dreams. Yeah. Buy the house of your dreams, move into it. Right. And if the rates drop, great. Refinance it. Yeah. And then you'll be locked in at a lower rate. So, but the reality is, honestly, listen, if your shelter does not fit your requirements for a home, then, make a move.
It's cost of doing business.
It is. You're really going to have to weigh that. Now, your motivation for that is much higher today than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Again, we were talking before we actually jumped on. 2 years ago, people, they needed new carpeting and they were like, let's just sell the house and buy a new one. Right. That doesn't happen very often anymore. So your motivation's got to be pretty high. However, if your phase of life or wherever you're at doesn't meet your accommodation, it doesn't accommodate your dreams and hopes, then make a move. And it is what it is. If the rates drop, great, you refinance.
So is that your 2024 advice?
Well, that's always been my advice. Is people move because they're not happy with where they're at, or they're looking for something new. So it really determines on what is it that you're looking for. Can we find something that fits in that, that's going to satisfy your desires, and let's go find it. Now, there's a financial piece to that, of course, and we work through that, but everybody's scenario is different.
Yeah. I think the important part, this is the financial planner speaking here, is, you make the move that you want to make, but by the time you retire, you got to get that mortgage paid off. That's so important. Retirement's all about cash flow. And if you're not going to have cash flow, or you have limited income in retirement, then it's time to pay off the mortgage. And so I would just be careful. Sometimes it's better to make the renovation than it is to make the move and be stuck with that mortgage for 30 years.
Yeah.
But, a lot of our families, they're going to pay cash. Or
we have a lot of cash buyers.
How about this one? The downsizers. I'm going to downsize my property. And I'm like, you're going to downsize the square footage. You will not be downsizing your price.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm going to move to one of those 55 plus communities. That's going to be at least 650.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I have this conversation with folks and it's eye opening for folks. They're like, what? Right. We're supposed to be selling the big house and getting a small house.
Doesn't mean,
yeah, well,
just because you're 55 and you want to move to a small house doesn't make it cheaper by default.
Yes. There's a couple things. One is you're usually getting a newer home.
Yes.
Right.
And you're paying for a lifestyle.
And you're paying for a lifestyle and we have low inventory. And guess who else is thinking the same thing you are?
All the other baby boomers are
the other baby boomers are doing the same thing. So the competition's pretty high.
Exactly. So yeah. I've seen the backside of this 55 plus communities. The margins are incredible.
They're huge. They're huge. You can take that same house and move it across the street that's not in 55 and it drops about 250,000 bucks at least.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that to my point, the price difference there is maybe it's better just to hire a yard person.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Well, you do get a lot of, the communities offer different community, I
don't know. I mean, you can do,
there's a lot of benefits that they sell in those communities. It's gated.
It's a lifestyle.
It's usually gated.
Because when you're 55, the boogeyman's coming to get you. When you were 54, you weren't concerned about it.
You weren't concerned about it when you had all the young kids running around, right? Who cares about them?
That's right.
They're fine.
No, it's a lifestyle. My mom's down in Sun City, which is just outside Hilton Head, and when you drive into that main gate, it's like, I swear they must store gold in that neighborhood somewhere. Like the security people are so uptight about.
Are they really?
Why are you here?
Yeah. Who are you here to see?
Like, it's my
What's
mother.
The purpose? What's the purpose of your visit?
Right. Copy of my driver's license. In the meantime, I drive to my kid's school, and the security guy, I don't have a sticker on my car.
Yeah.
That says I'm supposed to be there. I just haven't put it on. And the security guy, I have no credentials. He's just waving at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't go see mom, but I can. Maybe it goes back to the kid thing, right? They're like, please come here. Anybody, take these kids.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny.
But no, you're definitely paying a premium for that. But there's also the joy of living. I mean, I think that's where people want to be around other like people, and have activities.
They've had the same life experiences as you.
And if you pass away, you want your wife to have or spouse to have a good sense of community too.
Yeah.
So I see the positives and why
there
it does
is.
it. But I'm telling you, there are some quality builders doing it, but a lot of times I see these going up, and I'm just like, that's just like paper mache homes, and you're selling the lifestyle for a premium. Yeah,
that's that's true in just about any area, any subdivision. But yeah, there's some of these communities that we have, these 55 and overs. I mean, there's some beautiful homes.
Yeah,
I mean, very well crafted. Yes. I mean, the craftsmanship and
there's a few builders out there that are doing them high end.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with this, Tom. What do you think our headwinds are in real estate for 24?
Well, you're going to have continued pressure on the rates. The rates are tough, especially if you're in an existing home and you've got 85% of the mortgages right now are below 5%. About, I think the last stat I saw, like 55% are below 3.5. It is very challenging to trade out a 3.5 rate for something that's close to 8.
Yeah.
So we've got that challenge. Hence the reason why the resale inventory is so low.
Yep.
Right? Nobody's putting, you got to have high motivation to be selling your house right now in that segment.
Yeah.
So you've got that headwind. The rates are going to be continued. The low inventory is going to continue. The new construction, I think, is something that we're keeping our eye on and finding out just how much inventory there is that's going to be hitting the market in that area. We're continuing to look at unemployment. It's creeping up just a little bit, but not a whole heck of a lot. But we're going to have to see how that goes. 2024, we've got an election year. So the Fed is going to do everything they possibly can to try and keep things moving good, and good news, right? So we've got those kind of things heading our way. So my prediction is, based off all of this, I think it's going to be kind of a plateau year. We're still going to see values holding, or maybe a little bit of, maybe a little increase.
Yeah.
Maybe in certain areas, even a little dip. I don't see anything major happening with values across the board. We just really don't. So yeah. I think that kind of wraps up where we see 2024 kind of headed.
All right, Tom.
So nothing exciting, no ups and downs. I think it's going to be kind of a blah year. Sorry.
We have a podcast episode 133, What Financial Advisors Wish You Knew About Buying Your First Home. We've also linked to Tom's website in our show notes, Townsend Realty Group. If you'd like to learn more about him and what his team can do for you, if you're thinking about making the move to 55 plus, or maybe you're going to head for the hills, for the mountains.
Yeah, we help people. Yeah, we help people move.
But anyway, thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management, or want to schedule a consultation with us and one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com. If you're looking for real estate advice, Townsend Realty Group, what's your website?
It's townrg.com. So TOWNR is in realty, G is in group.com. You can get a link to all of our social media sites and anything else from the website.
All right, cool. Thanks, Tom. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This episode was produced and edited by Ken Hoadley. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or a solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guest may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guest of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.